Um, I think, is that Ray on the other end?
That is.
Hi, Ray, it's Christina.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, 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 good.
Thanks so much for joining us. Leslie will be on in about 10 or 15. She's finishing up her first round
Okay, okay.
of meetings today. Um, and I am on, unfortunately, the last little bit of your Pinot
Ouch.
that I have on hand for my bottle today. I actually opened it up yesterday, and it's quite nice. So
It's super floral the next day.
it's been it's been that's an interesting point. Are you able to hear me and see me okay? Or is it in
But we get some glitches where you'll talk and then it'll stop for a minute, like right now.
is a connection going in and out a bit? I'm trying to
Yeah,
update
yeah, it is.
my link. Okay. I'm gonna update my link. So I'm gonna log off and log
Yeah, excuse me 1 minute.
back on. No worries. Let's see if I can do this right here. Okay. Hopefully this will improve. We will see. Let's see if that helps a bit. Hopefully it does. Okay.
All right. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I mean, we still have a few minutes. And like I said, it's more of a one-on-one. A couple of members will join. I had some people email in some questions, and a couple of people watch. It's
Uh-huh.
not a live. Some people, they're not logged into the Zoom, but they watch from our end. So they'll send me like pop-up questions.
Okay.
So, and then we share with our member base and kind of then share the Zoom video after, and then we'll do snippets of it.
Okay.
So we use that from time to time. But anyway, thanks so much for joining us. It's nice to put a face to the name, even though I've
Yeah.
seen a million pictures of you and looking at your wines.
Okay.
Um, I am out. Actually, we have, I think one of our two members that's joining tonight for the video join is coming in here. Oh, and we have Alicia too. Hello, ladies.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hi. So we have Leslie that will be joining us in just a few minutes. She's running a little bit behind and logging in and out of one thing onto the next. We have Ray with Indigene Cellars. Did I say that correctly with the right influx?
Indigene.
Indigene. Thank you.
Yeah.
We've been debating that. And I'm gonna ask you about that in just a few minutes, but we have both your rosé and your Pinot Noir in our Hearth and Wine, Winter Hearth and Wine Quarterly Club. And we have Charisse and Alicia here, and I have some questions that have been sent to me. So it's an intimate one-on-one tonight, ladies. So if you have any questions, Ray has some really awesome wines. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to partake in his yet, but we are on with Ray from Indigene. Yes,
Yeah, I
did I
think I
say that
know
right the
everybody
second?
here.
You do?
I think I know. Yeah, I think.
Well,
Right? You guys
yeah,
both look. Yeah.
we met you last, not this past year, but year before last at Wine and Culture.
Hi,
Right.
Ray. How are
Hey, how
you?
are you?
These would be the
Good.
two ladies you would know.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect.
For sure. That's awesome. Well, I have some questions because Leslie and I have just tried your wines this year for the first time. So we'd been wanting to bring them on, and I'm glad we got to do it in the winter's quarter when we brought everything back kind of to home. Um, can you please just kind of go through a little bit about how you started and where you're going to go from here?
Yeah. These guys probably heard this story a million times, but I started by working at a winery. I right out of college, I came to the Paso Robles area. I was out here looking for a job and staying with one of my buddies while I was looking for work. And when it wasn't working out, I was either going to move back to the Bay Area where I'm from, either San Jose or Santa Barbara, where my line of work was more conducive. Um, I My buddy was working at a winery, so that summer, I just started working with him at the winery just to have some cash in my hand and not to be living at his house and him providing food for me and everything. So um, I worked at one of the biggest and oldest wineries in Paso Robles that time. It was called Archiero, and I worked in barrels. I was a barrel guy, and then I also worked in bottling. Um, I like that because unlike a lot of other positions at a winery, a lot of times with this volume of winery, you didn't have a daily work schedule or a daily work order. In other words, to get to tell you what to do, you would have like a monthly work order to working with barrels. You literally, by the time you finished a task, it would be time to start all over again. It takes that much time. So I drew a liking to that. The barrels at that time when I was working was post fermentation, post malolactic, but where the wines were changing rapidly with age. Um, and then also work bottling. A couple of years after that, um, or a year and a half after that, these guys came in town and they were investors and were looking to start a mobile wine bottling company. And a mobile wine bottling machine is on a truck, like a 52-foot trailer, like you see on the freeway. And inside is all the equipment to bottle and label wine, custom for other wineries. And it just so happens to be all the equipment that you would have in a winery. Nothing's different. So they had the money and I had the know-how, so to speak, because I had been working in wine bottling for a year and a half too. So we started out with a small used truck from another company, and the business took off. So I was always eager to learn a lot about winemaking from the winemaker whose name at that time was Malcolm Sibley at Archiero. Um, and then when I left there and started working for the mobile bottling company, I went from learning how to make wine from one winery to learning how to make wine from all kind of different wineries all over California. And you know, my my love for the craft and the inquisitive part of me just grew. And in 2008, I started this label. It was like 1990, 92, 91 when we started this mobile bottling company. And in 2008, I started Indigene, which is was still up and running right now. So, like I said, it was more like a backdoor entrance to winemaking. I was a journalism major, so I had no concept of wine or anything. I just loved the idea of getting my hands into wine. I was mechanically inclined, so the bottling part worked. And I liked the idea of meeting smaller producers who, you know, they literally touched every bottle almost. They, you know, handmade every bottle and touched every bottle. So, and 15 years later, here I am.
I'd say you have a pretty good idea of how it works because the wine's damn good.
A little something I threw together.
just a just a little something. I actually, so there was a question that came to me before tonight for somebody that couldn't join, and then I had a question that just popped up um uh for you now, and that is, how many wineries did you visit while learning to bottle?
I bet I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but I bet you over the years it was 400 different wineries. Easy. It was probably a lot more than that, but I bet you it was 400 different wineries.
Did you have any downtime during that when you were visiting and doing the bottling? Because I've been involved with that myself and had bottling trucks come to the wineries where we were working. Did you have any downtime on your end where you could taste the wines where you were going?
Um, so the
Or
way it works is like so you have a winery and I come to bottle for you. The
Mhm.
first year, you know, everything's you know like pretty straightforward. You get to know the people, you get them comfortable. You show them the equipment. They talk to you about the wines. They talk to you about the conditions of wine, if it was anything special that needed to be done, and um, and then you bottle. But after that, every year, soon as you get there, the first thing you do is set up the truck with power and water. But after that, immediately you start tasting the barrels. It's just getting caught up about what we talked about last year, about the kids,
Mhm.
or about new barrels, or about wine, or concepts and fermentation, or whatever it is. The whole conversation usually starts over the barrels, just walking from barrel to barrel, tasting, you know, what you're going to be bottling tomorrow, or what's coming down the pipe, or what's really interesting. So I had a hands-on, literal, free, like wine tasting and information experience from winery to winery every year for more than 25 years.
Excellent. So
Yeah.
so we could say you developed a good base palate
Right. At least I could
before
admit.
you got going, right? And
Right.
hello, Leslie. You just joined
Hello.
us.
Hi, everyone. Hey, Ray. How are you doing?
How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
We were just chatting. I had a couple of questions that came in Charisse and Alicia, do you guys have a question before I ask the next one? I know you guys are familiar, but that might be even better.
We've already grilled Ray.
Poor Ray.
I actually reviewed one of your wines last month, maybe.
Uh,
Your Syrah, which I absolutely loved it. But which one was your flagship wine? Was it the Pinot?
I just make a lot of Pinots. So like traditionally, most winemakers will have a love for a certain wine or wine style, and they would specialize in that. But from my background, I probably have the most schizophrenic approach of a menu out of everybody I know. I mean, I've always been under some or hooked up with some old traditional Italian guy who taught me a lot about Sangiovese's. I did a lot of work in Santa Maria Valley, where as the Tepesca area has nothing but Pinots. So I know a lot about Pinots. Syrah was more all over. It wasn't like in one particular climate, but the different types of Syrahs piqued my interest. Cabernet is more of a flagship that I like because it's so diverse. The flavor profiles from Cabernets from Napa compared to Paso Robles, compared to Carmel Valley are entirely different, and it's just in a 6-hour radius. So I don't know that I have a flagship that I'm known for.
Pinot is a bit of a schizophrenic grape in itself, so I'd say
Yeah,
you're doing pretty well with that.
yeah,
That is I haven't tasted anything that I just didn't love so far. So I'm really excited to taste some of your Pinots side by side, to be honest, just to see how they vary because I see some different vineyards that you're pulling from.
right. And from a perspective of like perception of wine taste and mouthfeel, Pinot is usually the one because of its elegant style that I would lean towards most, meaning that I would have just from the Central Coast, probably Santa Lucia Highland Pinot, and then a Santa Maria Valley Pinot, and then a Santa Rita Hills Pinot, where Santa Maria Valley and Santa Rita Hills is south of the Transverse Mountain Range, and wines get bigger and more depth as you get further and further south. Santa Lucia Highlands is almost northern Central Coast, where the Pinots are more elegant and the most Burgundian style of winemaking, I think, in California. But they all have different reasons for the mouthfeel or different reasons for the flavor profiles. And it's so unique, to their particular terroir that it's interesting more so with Pinot than anything that I have to kind of not just sit there and talk to you or talk at you about Pinots, but talk to you while you're tasting them and be able to walk through with you what my perceptions are and to have you understand it like in your own language, so to speak, while you're tasting.
That's a
Ray,
great
what's your
idea,
favorite?
actually.
What's my favorite?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Bordelaise guy. I've always been a cab. Um, they're more challenging to make. There's so many different clones. Um, like I said, Napa Valley is more like chocolate and carob characters in cab, where Paso Robles and in that area is more like dark fruit and plums in their cabs. And then Carmel Valley, Monterey County, there's more like bright raspberry and cherry. They're so different, And then each clone has its own characteristic, and it's just so challenging to be able to make a wine that you think is better than the one that you made the year before, because you have so many options in order to blend them down to make them perfect, or do something wrong and destroy them, and then take the next couple of days to fix it back up. And I did most of those. I mean, did both of those.
So,
So
so Ray, I remember when we sat in we sat in the lobby in the hotel a couple of years back. I remember you liking big bold wines, is
right.
what I remember. Is there a style or something that, what was your aha wine that you're like, okay, this is what I want to do? Was there
Uh,
a wine like that that
yeah, yeah. So the concept of Indigene is more terroir driven, or wines that are native to their, soil composition and weather patterns. And it just seems to me like, depending on the area, you'll find Syrahs that are big and fruity, but once you get further south, you'll find some that are bigger and rounder. So I get a lot of those aha moments. Um, I like the petite Syrahs that are overpowering, big, round. You could taste fruit, but they're also big and fleshy. Um, and then
Draw
like,
with an ink,
I didn't hear
the
you on.
kind you can draw with an ink pen.
Right, right, right,
Mhm,
right,
mhm.
right. So yeah, I've had those aha moments because I'm a student of this still. I've had those aha moments often, often. I make a
is
couple of blends that have been in existence for a while, actually since the 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 origin of Indigene, and they are more like constructed like big bright fruit characters, but a big mouthfeel and flesh and depth or flavor profile. And in order to have that without a drop off, you do have to be able to have one of those wines that are big and round in order to make that balance kind of stay at a high pitch. So
I have a question that's asked, and that is, other than drink wines, um, what is your favorite part, just whether it be relaxing or working or something about the vineyards or the work itself that you enjoy most in a given day? Like, what is your favorite part about being the winemaker and producer, other than drinking the wines?
um, not a lot stands out as a favorite, but I know I like to be alone in my barrels. I like to be alone when I'm blending. I like to be alone,
Mm.
even talking or working with the barrels period. I like to be alone. I like it to be quiet. I like to be not to have a bunch of things that would grab my attention besides the wines, besides the sound, besides the smell, because I want to be open to how everything speaks to me. I want to be open to flavor profiles. I want to be open to, how this wine could change the flavor profile of a blend, and I want to be open to new concepts. I would say some of my favorites is working with the barrels, yeah, and working by myself with them. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Do you have a preference in the type of barrels that you use?
All depends. Sejon Moreau has always been a Cabernet standard. Nadalier, um, the all French oak Nadalier's always been a rounder, softer, thin staved barrel that works well with Pinots, that doesn't pronounce a lot. Um, I'm not a 100% neutral oak guy, but I like to let wines express themselves. In other words, I don't want to overpower them with a bunch of new oak. So I want to have, oak profiles and an oak program that will accentuate the wine and make it beautiful together instead of overpowering it. And you have to find the wine's flavor profile out of a bunch of oak. So, just
Do you
Yeah,
depending.
allow, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm drinking the Pinot Noir now, and it's just, it's just lightly beautiful.
Right.
It reminds me, I was watching the special yesterday on Black ballerinas on PBS, and it has that elegance to it and that delicateness to it, but it's, it can stand up by itself, and I love it. And it doesn't have a whole lot of hints of oak. That there's oak present there, but it's not punching you in the face to say, pay attention to me.
Right, right. And from the perspective of winemaking, you are selling wine. You are exhibiting wine. You're not exhibiting oak. So, from my perspective, like I said, I'm not a neutral oak guy, but I will be really, really light in the oak process. And with that being said, you want to have an oak program that is present, but blends elegant and seamless with the wine without overpowering it, without you having to add more wines or add something to tone down the amount of oak that you put in there because it's overpowering all the wine's flavor profiles. So,
And do all your wines go through a purposeful malolactic fermentation? Or I should say all the reds.
all the reds, yeah.
All the reds. Yep. Okay.
I,
I
I
noticed. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I have a question. Alicia Smith knows this because me and her been friends for a long time. But can you talk to me about your rosé? We're
Okay.
Oh,
we're gonna find me a rosé. We're gonna find me a rosé
you
that I like.
you just might here, Charisse. You just might.
A rosé. Did you lose it?
You didn't send me a rosé.
That you had tried a rosé in one of our previous ones, and you were like, I don't like rosé, but I think I could like this one.
I have to
I'm
look
gonna have,
back.
I'm gonna have to find that one. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Ray.
I recall that, Leslie. She never recalled that,
Yes,
but that's a whole other thing.
I do too. It's
Oh,
recorded on here. We should go back and find
okay,
out
so
which
they
one.
found me a rosé, but I'm looking for more rosés
How,
because rosés are a
however,
problem.
all of
Well,
Ray's
she did
wines.
say she thought. She wasn't sure.
Rosé is a problem for me. The struggle is so real.
Okay.
Ray,
So,
Ray, Ray, tell Sharice about your rosé and why she would love it.
And we
okay.
have it.
So for one thing, this is not Provence style, but it is direct to press like Provence. It is done in a Cocard or a champagne press where you could control
Mm,
the amount of juice that you get per ton. So it's done
excellent.
just like traditional wine and with a softer feel without, I control the astringency. Um, it's done half with native yeast, all the way up until it starts to have the slightest of off smell, and then finish with Montrachet or something like that that will finish the fermentation. But it's done meticulously and direct, meaning that there's rosés that some people are literally taking a base white wine and adding red wine to it. There's rosés that are done just Saignée style, meaning that after the grapes are
Hmm.
crushed, they take out a percentage of juice right away just to increase the juice to skin ratio. I mean, it increased the skin to juice ratio to make the wines more intense. And then they use that, to make a rosé. And that's not, I'm not being critical of it, but it's not an intent on making a wine. It's just a byproduct of another wine that you have. This is Pinot Noir. It's 100% Pinot Noir. It's grapes that were intended to make wine. It's done in a press just like you would do any other Pinot. And it's just taken off of the skins right away in order to be light and fruity and accentuate the style of Provence or the style of light French rosé wines. So I think like Sangiovese, like champagnes, like ports, there's going to come a time where we're going to be a little bit more direct and restrict what you can call a rosé because there's so many different ways of creating something that you call rosé and putting it in a bottle and then comparing it to my rosé, which is entirely different. It's like apples and oranges. It has nothing to do with each other,
Right.
but they still can call it rosé. There's no way you would be able to do that with an Italian wine. I mean, they restrict things, not more than everybody, but I mean, they're really restrictive on what you can and cannot do with Bordeaux blends. You can't call it a Bordelaise blend if you don't have just Bordeaux's variety. Those kind of concepts should be with all wines, especially something like rosés that are coming up, and wines that are more appreciated year round than just being a summer porch pounder like it used to be. So I would think that you got to be more direct on the type of production that you're experiencing when it comes to rosés. Yeah.
In this style. I think that you would very much like this rosé, Charisse. I really do. It has you can tell it's produced just a little bit differently. There's a lot of in I think intensity of flavor, but it's also very elegant. It has a nice dryness to it, but enough fruit forward. So people that I think might prefer sweeter wines, they're not going to think this rosé is sweet, but I think they're going to like it because of that fruit and characteristics of the grape itself and the acidity that's there. It definitely has a really nice balance to it from what I recall when I tasted. I think it's a really, really nice rosé. I actually think it's big enough for winter and perfect enough for summer. So it's like, oh, you don't drink rosés in the wintertime, but aha,
Don't say
you
that.
most certainly
Don't say
do.
that.
I
I drink
know.
rosé all year round.
That's right. You most certainly do. People say rosés are for summertime. Oh no, I've got news for you. We've got one that's for all year round and many others. So it's definitely a worthwhile try. And with that, I have another question. So, who is your mentor currently? Like, who's somebody that you go to in the industry right now when you're looking for advice or consult or feedback that you
Uh,
look to?
that's hard to say. I mean, all depends on what it would be. Like I said, unlike most winemakers, I had, a couple of hundred mentors over the years. And um, the questions that I would be looking for advice would probably be more not financial, but like, in order to make a decision on a blend or make a decision on a wine and not invest so much into it that it's no way that I could. That's a hard question because I don't think I was one that just had one or two people who was teaching me about wines. I
You have a
taught
good support system.
a massive one all over, and in the Paso Robles area where I'm at, I bottled for almost everybody here. So I have a relationship with almost all of these guys, and I don't lean towards talking to any of them more than the other. So that's kind of a hard question for somebody like me who had a background and experience in wine from every one of these guys for so long that
And bottling all over California.
yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
What's
Apologize.
behind the label? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask that same question, and I apologize for being late, and I wasn't sure if
Nope.
this was asked already. But how did you come up with the name and
Indigene.
the label? Mm-hmm.
Did you?
So traveling around like a bottler for 25 years, tasting wines from all over, you kind of get a concept of what Cabernets are going to be tasting like in this area compared to this area, what Pinots are going to be lighter and more floral in this area compared to Pinots that are going to be bigger and heavier and have, more astringent notes in this area. What area is known for, the lightest of white wines, or, so it just means native, but it's more a concept of wine's terroir. It's more a concept of wine surroundings, wines, soil compositions, and weather patterns that create it. So it's the short answer is native, but there's a lot more to it from a perspective of what soils do what to what wines, what weather patterns or what heat days do what to what wines. So it's kind
And
of a
how about this label? I'm sorry.
so
As far as the label design, that's one of the more interesting labels I think I've ever seen. And
right,
it's
right,
really
right.
cool.
And I got a lot of flack from this because it had nothing to do with the marketing, or a message of Indigene. But this label, in 2008, we created Indigene. And at that time, I had went from working for a mobile bottler to taking over the company, and I owned it. So I was working more. I was leaving Sunday and coming back on Friday. And so it's Sunday afternoon. I'm getting ready to go. My daughter's 4 years old, and she's already set me up for, are you going to be home Wednesday? Are you going to be home Thursday? And I want to explain to her that because we have a winery now and we only have, a small amount of time to work on our own wines, that not only am I not coming back Friday, it's a good chance that I may not be back till Saturday night because we only have that time to work on our own wines. She immediately turned around and walked away, went in the room with her mom and told her, that's all that dad thinks about is grapes and wine. That's all that's in his head. So we wrote this little picture with crayons and made a little man with grapes in his head. And it was funny. And she laughed. And, I kept the picture and kept it on my refrigerator for a long time. I got a buddy out here who's a graphic artist, and he made this picture out of it. And ever since then, I used it for the red wine labels. So, and
It's
it literally has
fantastic.
nothing to do with the marketing, has nothing to do with the message of Indigene, but it's just something that we created accidentally. And it's ever since then, it's been the picture, the forefront of the red wines.
A way better story than I ever could have imagined. Most definitely. Kudos to your daughter.
Yeah. And that was 4. Now she's 20. So a lot's changed. A lot's changed. Yeah. Yeah. She
You
doesn't,
ask her if she'd change that picture.
I don't know if she would, but she wouldn't care less if I came home now or not. That's for sure. So
Did she work in the family business?
no, not at this time. She's in school.
Okay.
She's in school. So yeah. I unbeknownst to a lot of people, I was letting my kid taste a lot of the blends at a young age. And she developed a palate that was close to mine, and she could tell what wines that were going to turn out good, especially with the blends. I have one blend, the Philanthropist, and she almost had expertise in that, which ones were great and had the potential to be in bottle that year compared to which ones weren't. And she would always say, this is salad dressing, or this is tomato sauce right here, so she was really into it, and life's changed now. Her life's so complex that she's not into it as much as she, it remains to be seen.
Everything comes
He's-
back around.
It
Yeah.
does. It's going to come back around. It's good that you do that. We talk a lot about in our professional lives where you're incorporating wine and you didn't have the opportunity to have it on the table growing up.
Right.
And so it becomes a challenge as an adult professional
Right.
to really understand wine. So I think that's awesome and amazing.
Right. I know one thing, I never had an issue with her drinking at a young age. I think she had the whole concept of taste and alcohol, and she wasn't really, that wasn't something that she was trying to investigate. And where a lot of her friends got in trouble for drinking and driving, or drinking at their age, she just, by that time she was past that. So
Familiar and comfortable.
yeah, yeah.
Yep. Knows what to do with it and what it's for,
Right.
which is fantastic though. Do I have a delay? Sometimes I have a delay.
No, you're doing well tonight,
Okay,
Christina.
good. I
Yes.
wasn't in the beginning when I came on. I actually, my screen froze for a moment right when Ray was looking up, and it looked like he was rolling his eyes. And I thought to myself, oh no, here I go again. My screen is stuck. But
Yeah,
so, well, thank you
you're
for
doing
that
good.
patience in the beginning too, Ray, there when we were getting started.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, this Pinot that I'm drinking, I had told him I had opened it from before, um, over a day ago. And um it is I the way that I would explain, and this is the one that you sent, I believe it's the Carmel
Yeah,
Pinot.
it's Carmel Valley.
Yep, Pinot,
Right.
Pinot Noir. And it has this and a lot of people, I try to help people understand when they're tasting wine about that mouthfeel. When you're like, most people say, I've never bitten into a flower petal, but if you've ever felt or bitten into like a rose petal, you know that when you bite into it, it has a little bit of a bitter juice. But if you just feel it, like that texture, or even put it in your mouth, you can feel it has a very velvety, very silky, smooth texture to it. And violets give off a very specific aroma, and your Pinot Noir was really aromatic that second day and has a lot of that intense bright cherry and floral, kind of rose petal, violet petal, very, very, really nice textured. I think it just opened up so well and slowly. So that was really nice to be able to enjoy it and it not kind of decline as quickly as a lot of other wines I open up, and they might be a little bit too firm and may not have those balanced characteristics to last another day or two. But this one was really quite nice. So I was very, very pleased. If you haven't tried it yet, you need to.
Yeah, thank you. That's indicative of time management, meaning barrel management, being very careful about minimizing oxidation, um, keeping your preservatives, keeping a barrel program that's sound. In other words, keeping all your barrels topped up in time, minimizing sulfurs, and just making sure that you don't get a lot of oxygen in barrel, not really having Pinots and barrel for more than 15 months. I usually lean closer to 12 months and then try to do a 12-month in barrel program and 12-month in bottle program before I release it. And then it's not starved for oxygen, but when you open it, where it may appear tight, as time goes on, you're going to start to get more floral notes and notes, and that wine will expand over a couple of hours time, and really react to oxygen that it gets when you open the bottle. Besides that, it's sitting in a bottle for a year before it's released, and it's sitting in a barrel for a year before that. And it's just, wine molecules that are just waiting to become what they're going to be, and starved for oxygen, so to speak. So
Have you ever done a vertical where you've had like your earliest Pinots up to your newer Pinots and kind of, I mean, I'm sure that you have, but anything recent where you've seen how far or how long they've lasted in the bottle and good cellar condition, of course.
yeah, yeah, and depending on the year and the area, there are some 2010 and 11 Pinots that I'm still tasting that are tight right now. Um,
Nice.
And but depending on the year, some of them, are progressively becoming more beautiful and floral, and it'll have a drop off year, or one that's just like simply amazing that outdoes all of them, and that'll be like 2017 or something like that, where the conditions were just amazing and it stood out. But besides that, that's a progression. What I'm into now is doing a vertical with the rosés because it's 100%,
Oh.
and then seeing one how they age, and then um, how the notes change according to. I haven't did it direct to press long enough to know a history of what it's supposed to be like or how these wines are going to change. So that's new and exciting, and demanding a lot of my time right now.
What's the oldest of your wines you have right now?
As far as libraries, I have, depending on available or what I have, because some I'm not going to release anymore.
What's the oldest rosé you have?
Oh, I think 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing rosé? Did you
Uh,
say?
4 or 5 years.
Okay, so you're in the kicker stages of that, so
Well,
to
and
speak.
this is another thing too that I didn't divulge that I probably should. The concept of this came from in the areas where a lot of Pinots are growing, especially Santa Lucia Highlands, Carmel Valley. There's like every 3 or 4 or 5 years there's a fire, and even though the fire doesn't literally burn the vines, the smoke will
Yeah.
permeate the grape skin,
Mm-hmm.
and it literally destroys the wine. So where this concept can sound really complex, the first years that I was doing it was just to see if I can get juice out of this damaged smoked skin and see if I can make something out of it, and it's almost like I found something beautiful in that process. But the initial reason was to just make sure that I didn't get any smoke or smoke taint, and be able to have a wine that would be worth more than what the insurance would be.
Yes. Are you pulling your grapes from vines that are younger, or are they a little more mature?
Most of them mature. Most of
Okay.
them mature. Most of them places where I source. I don't really source from a lot of places that I didn't bottle for, 10, 15 years ago. And I've seen these wines grow to fruition and tasted, how beautiful some of these wines could be. And it's like an underhand pitch or a head start, and the concept of what you think wines could be because you're tasting them from expert winemakers who have a relationship with this vineyard. So.
When you're doing the tasting and you're doing your blending, and you were saying you like to kind of, hone in and be by yourself and really focus, and enjoy that time, and like to take that time. Um, do you do a lot of your own chemistry in the blending? Do you where do you pick up on that part? Or are you doing it blindly? I mean, I know that there's chemistry involved, there's some, but some people are some people are very particular about certain, mathematical equations in their blending, and other people really like to
Right.
wing it.
Well, um, depending on what you're talking about, not too much more chemistry than I mean, I don't add acids or anything like that to wine. I mean, if a way you could avoid something like that would be to say you have a Syrah or a Pinot or a Cabernet that is usually a higher pH or something where the wines are rounder and or bigger than you would like, then instead of adding chemicals to it, you would want to go through the vineyard and do a pick 3 or 4 weeks earlier, almost 5 weeks earlier, a month or so earlier, where the grapes would be, lighter sugars and then brighter fruit and higher acids. So you literally are blending acid back into the wine through a earlier pick that where you don't have to. It's still just adding wine. You're not adding acid. You're not adjusting the pH. So I don't do a bunch of chemical adjustment at all. I mean, the chemical adjustments are during fermentation. Not too much after that, besides preservatives are added to the wines at all, from my perspective, from my experience.
And you said you likely use, or I should say, pure oak. You're just you're particular about your barrels. In other
Right.
words,
Right.
what's your go-to? French, American? I don't know if I caught that.
I do all French.
You do all
All.
French.
Yes.
Is it?
There's some wines, Petit Syrah or Syrah. I will add 1 or 2 Hungarian oak barrels, but that just adds a nuance of spice that you won't get with French oak barrels.
Yep.
So a small percentage of Hungarian just to add spice, but it's usually just French oak.
No spice in the French oak.
Yeah.
For people who are thinking that it's just heavily peppered, no spice in that French oak.
Alicia Squared. Do you guys have any questions, Charisse?
They're over there sipping away.
I know, which is very dangerous. I put in the chat because we have Alicia Scott and Alicia Smith, and Alicia Scott works on our team. And so sometimes Alicia Smith almost received a text from me asking her about one of our tours. So I always have to do a double take when I'm sending texts out to make sure I'm texting the right Alicia.
Or sending wine.
Yes. Yes, that too. That too.
So I'll take all of the wine.
Ray, I was reading an article recently about the decline in wine drinkers, which I don't understand that, but
Yeah.
have you noticed a difference in your business or in your circles where people are saying that there is a decline in and they're reducing their production because of this?
I don't think in a small area like this where there's a really tight-knit, like concentrated area of artists, most of us don't produce that much wine to where I think I think if we were producing hundreds of thousands of cases, then you want to look at your numbers. I think that's more wineries that operate like banks, so to speak. I don't want to say it like that. That's,
But I
places
understand.
corporate decisions,
Larger.
and they'll try to be able to hone in for something else to reproduce that 3% that they're going to lose and people that are not drinking wine. Usually in a place like that, people come here for the wine. So that something like that, I think usually affects the bigger operations that, make a lot of wine and volume. I could be wrong, but I don't see a drop off.
It
Well,
makes
that's
it
good.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is good to know.
Yeah.
It definitely makes sense. Now, you were saying a tight-knit community. So, I mean, you're in a very tight-knit community, but you're very involved in the community. And I know that you do the last time we talked, I think you were on a tractor. But you had mentioned going places and doing things and obviously promoting your brand and talking about the brand. what is your biggest hurdle that you deal with right now in terms of just like the brand awareness or just the biggest hurdle personally that you have in helping, your brand reach other people? And just if you were going to share something particular you really wanted to know that maybe nobody ever asked, but you always think about
Yeah,
as a challenge.
I don't know. I seem like I have the most consistent challenges are like distribution, being able to have channels of getting the wine all over the United States, and
Mhm.
that'll always come back to a distributor who's sound that would pick up smaller guys like me, you know,
Mm.
uh, without having a massive name. Uh, some of the bigger companies, my label would get lost in those companies. And
Yeah.
the only real way that that works is if I was to, join a big, so to speak, distributor, and but literally still travel all over the United States, hand sell my wine, and then direct it back to them so they could distribute it.
Right.
Where, back in the day when I first started in the business, you may have to go out with a broker or a distributor to a couple of restaurants and talk about the wines and sell it then, but you would still had a presence. Now there's so many labels, and then so many
Mhm.
big labels that are dictating the time that smaller guys like me get lost in translation and something like that. Um, um, Anything else significant would be um, just that there's never enough time. I'd love to be able to. I mean, I still literally make all of my wines. I don't have a
Grapes are on your mind all the time.
yeah, right. So I don't have a team of winemakers or, somebody that I give instructions to. And, I'm a member of the Economic Vitality and Downtown Main Street Association here. We do a ton of charity work in this area, the Bay Area
Mhm.
where I'm from, and other places. And um, besides my family. I mean, there's 24 hours in a day, but I've exceeded that a long time ago. And winemaking and sleep, it just doesn't add up to the amount of time that I need in order to be able to function to I think to bring this label to another level, I think.
And those darn gnats.
Right. Right.
Yes.
I
You know you're
I
doing
know.
something
I
right.
understand. I understand. There hasn't been a resolve. There hasn't been a fix to that yet. 100%.
Do you take in apprentice to work with you, like junior winemakers, understudy?
I haven't. I've attempted that one time, and
And they ruined
literally,
it for everybody else?
well, it's not that. It's just that, it's almost double work for me. And then
Yeah.
You're doing more work to lead them through what you already know because there's nobody else to do it.
well, I want to be hands-on.
Right.
If I had you as an apprentice, I want to be able to talk to you about what to do and why. If I just tell you what to do and leave, then, you're getting some experience doing what I say. But,
Hmm.
for me to be able to sit down and talk to you about what you're doing and why. And the only reason I would look at it like that is because I would want to know why. There's
Mm-hmm.
guys
Right.
that sat down and talked to me about making Cabernet. There's guys who have sat down and talked to me, who have gave me yeast, who have gave me brand new barrels, who have provided the grapes for me, who have came out and looked at my wines, who, with me saying that I didn't know, I've got an intense amount of training just from winemakers all over California, just because I wanted to know. Therefore, when it comes to winemaking, I can't see just saying, you know, put these barrels together or take these two barrels and blend them with this barrel and not have the time to sit down and say why. and tell them what they're going to be expecting when it comes out. So and that
And
leads to
why is continuous in this industry? Because
right,
wine is
exactly
constantly changing.
right.
And so you're going to have a different harvest, and so a different vintage and different whys.
Right. And not only that, a lot of stuff I'll be teaching you from experience, but there will be some things that I'm teaching you that I just learned. And I'm learning all the time. I mean, I'm the biggest student around. So
That's a ever changing, ever changing. Is there anything new and upcoming that you have? It's not like you need to add another wine, right?
right,
You've got some really good wines, and I
right.
think you've, at least this vintage, you seem to have perfected them. But as far as projects, do you have anything new or new wines in the works or anything that you're excited about coming
Well,
up?
2019 is our first release of 48 months early sparkling. So we have
Oh,
a
Oh,
sparkling program that started this year. Um, and
okay.
So that's a new release. Um, I've always had the concept of a new secondary label because there's other wines that just fight their way on this menu. And now I literally have wines that are usually on the menu that only get 3 months on the menu because there's something else that needs to get its time there. So um, I have a secondary label that's going to be coming out somewhere towards the end of the year. And
Is it
um,
like a higher end? Is it a
yeah, it's going to be
table?
higher end and varietal focused. Yeah,
Okay,
no blends,
nice.
just meticulous. I'll try to make it my best barrels, my best tasting wines, and something more, my DNA, something that's challenging me to make the best wines that I could. Um, that and I have a couple of blends that I'm always excited to perfect, and I've secretly made some wines this year that I'm going to attempt to change the components of some of the blends that have been consistent since 2008. I could be changing them, in 2025 to a amazing wine with an entirely different concept of blend or entirely different components in the blend. So that's exciting.
Excellent. That sounds very exciting. All those things sound really exciting. And do you when will you or do you have the sparkling?
Yeah, that's been kind of weird because when it came out, it started selling really fast, and we raised the price to slow it down, and it still kept selling fast. And we raised the price to slow down, and it still kept selling fast. So until I'm ready to release the 2020, I'm holding back on the amount that release. It's just exclusively through the tasting room right now, and um, I'm not holding on to it, but I mean, it's probably 180 cases left that if I wasn't going to do anything, it would be gone by summer.
So you
And
so you could
And it's vintage.
yeah, 19.
sneak us a
I didn't hear you.
You're on mute, Alicia.
you could sneak us a case or two.
That's what I mean. See, that's exactly what happens right there. But yeah,
We could talk.
yeah,
We could talk.
yeah, yeah.
I'm saying, Ray, we go way back. Come on.
I know. I knew you were gonna cash in all of that too. And yeah, you'll have it. You'll have it. Yeah. Yeah. So it's called You the Shot. It's a French translation of cat eyes. That's what my family used to call me when I was little. Cat eyes.
See, there you go. It's right
Right.
there.
Okay,
That
that's
was my name before. I was Cat Eyes on Instagram before.
Right. So Brut Cuvée was the first release. like I said, 48 months, 48 months in bottle before release,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and 4% terroir, so 4% sugar. So it's a dry, unique, light 80-20 Pinot and Chardonnay style. So I'm super excited about it.
Nice.
need
Pinot
that.
Noir, naturally. You had to do that.
Right. I these guys that are teaching me how to do it, I was on them all the time for teaching me. And I bottled for these guys. And they simply said one year, you're going to do it, but you're going to do it our way. And it's either our way or it's no way we're going to show it. And I mean, they use the most expensive fruit, the most expensive bottles, the most expensive yeast. I mean, they do everything top notch, but I'm not on that budget. So if it was just one year, that's one thing, but this has been a constant investment since 2019, which that's almost penniless. But now I'm on the other side of it, and starting to at least reap some of the costs that I endured back in 2019. So
Is there anything that you're looking at before we're gonna and then I'll be quiet? But is there anything that you're really looking forward to or wanting and hoping to do? Because wine can be a volatile industry, although I feel like when we're long gone, the grapes are still going to be here. So, is there anything that you're looking towards for the future to build in terms of like legacy or future paths, or you're hoping for in the wine industry that you think would be really beneficial to both yourself and other winemakers and smaller winemakers, boutique winemakers, family-owned wineries?
I think some of the concepts of distribution, like I said, it should be a different way where it's not big houses that control everything. Ways that channels for smaller guys to be able to get their wines out. Um, 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 there's a ton of
Seems to
things.
be a common.
Right. There's a ton. The screen didn't stop. I was just sitting there short sturdily. There's a lot that I would change. I just hope that years like this with an excessive amount of rain where I was at, and it changed the concept and the pattern of the bulk market in the Central Coast area. A lot of wine that's going to be almost of the highest quality. Where usually bulk market wines are usually what people don't want, and it's all thrown together, and somebody either buys some of it and tries to doctor it up and make it beautiful, or buys it and puts it together with another massive program and calls it $2 chuck or something like that. A big bulk market is not attractive in an area like this because it just seems like a lot of wines that weren't wanted. But this year, there was a ton of grapes that were amazing, and all the way down to the last days where people couldn't even take these amazing grapes, even if they were free, because there was no room for it in no space. That's going to translate to an
Wow.
amazing amount of wine in a bulk market that a lot of people could do. So a lot of new winemakers that are up and coming that don't have everything that they're growing. I mean, that are not growing everything, and lean towards the bulk market for some wines that we make. We'll be able to get some great quality wines this year, and hopefully they could build off of that.
That's very insightful sharing. Amen.
Yeah.
So I was doing some more reading,
Okay.
and I was reading my wine enthusiast guide.
Uh-huh.
And I happened to stumble across the cat eye that
Uh-huh.
had a 90-point rating.
We can't talk
Uh-huh.
about it till February.
Oh,
We
it's
can't talk about
we
that till
we have
February.
we have the online release, so it hasn't come out yet.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's at well, it landed in my
It's
inbox, so I
it's
can't
out,
talk
but it's
about.
not out in print.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. Okay, then maybe we
Oh
can
no,
then.
it is in print. It is in print.
I thought
Oh,
that was
okay.
the one that was coming because that's the advance.
Oh, is
Yeah,
that the advanced copy?
yeah, I thought that
It's
was
for people who get their inbox for digital. Who
Okay,
are
I I had seen that.
yeah,
Not only that, but somebody else's rosé is also listed on there as a 90 point.
yeah.
Yep.
I can't wait to get it out there and talk about it,
Sure.
And it's just getting better every year. And as I have different vintages coming, I also have a Blanc Noir, a Blanc de Blanc. I have some different styles, and I'm kind of honing in my way in the sparkling game. And there's going to be a lot of amazing sparklings coming out of this house. So
Alicia is over here losing her mind.
Yeah, I am all about those, but
All
I
of that.
love, yes, all of that. I love it all. You got that right. That's
yeah,
so exciting. That's
So
awesome.
you're taking a trip this way, right, Ray?
I am. I am.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just have to make sure you have some good luggage to put it in, and we'll definitely have something for our wine club members, hopefully, fingers crossed.
We
You
got
are
that.
more than welcome to ship it to my house. I will hold it for you.
Okay.
Well, this has been absolutely wonderful. I 100% agree with you
Awesome.
on distribution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with Denise Matthews about that. How
Yeah.
that is
Mhm.
that is our open area now, where we have a lot of people in production, but we can't get the bottles on the shelf.
Right.
And it is a
And
challenge.
there's so much there's a lot of turmoil right now going on. There's
Yeah.
always changes, but I feel like more in the last year or two than ever before.
But
Yeah.
there's a
Just
lot of stuff we
just
just can't
being
get.
in that
We can't even get
industry.
in Maryland.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
and my
Like,
prediction is the large places
uh-huh.
are going to cannibalize, because they are collapsing on their
Oh
own
yeah.
weight
Right.
now, and it really will be the day of the boutique distributors, where
I
Oh
you're
hope.
yes.
able to get quality wine.
I hope,
I
because
am hoping as well.
it's almost like having a license. Like, you can make great wines and you can have a great place that's a tasting room, but without a license, you can't sell the wine or use the tasting room. It's like distribution is the whole of the economic part of winemaking. It's almost like you have a tasting room like mine that does good. But if I had sound distribution, then I could literally pay for the cost of all of the winemaking and all the wine for
Mhm.
that year, and everything else would be profit. It would be, it would give me the chance to be able to do a lot more for charity, a lot more for, helping with younger winemakers that are up and coming. It would be a way that you could see economically, what's happening with your business from a black and white on paper perspective.
Yeah.
And this way I'm just winging it, and the company's doing good, but it's it's sometimes the amount of money that I come up with would be a surprise. I didn't see it happening, where if it was sound distribution, what's coming in, what's going out, what's going to be paid for, where this part of distribution is, where you're doing. Every week I meet somebody who's never heard of Indigene. I can't believe it. I can't believe it's been around since 2008. I'm not saying I'm a massive company and I'm world renowned, but I mean,
But you are.
I mean, in California, there's people who have never heard of me, so it's kind of like I don't really have time to go to every city and sit down and go to every wine bar or every restaurant
Mhm.
because I have to do stuff like sleep, and or so I think that the distribution part is a foothold to everything else. So
It's not, it's one of the big things impeding the way to really, really good wine and everybody being able to experience. We deliver wines from California to California because they can't get them in California. We
yeah,
deliver, don't we, Leslie? We ship out wines to California because they can't easily access what they need direct. Or there's wines on the East Coast that we sell elsewhere because not because, maybe they can't ship, but they don't have a distributor that's worthwhile or they get lost in the mix. And, it's we've worked with quite a few wineries even recently, like this year, Leslie, that have said, I'm I'm in the middle of distributors and I don't know what to do. And it's like we're in DC, so we're lucky and we can coordinate getting those wines direct from the winery. But
I
it's
remember going to
mm,
I remember going to I don't know, was it a Spain or Portugal or Spain's and Portugal like thing in DC last year. And there were so many people there that, wouldn't be able to get their wines out because they didn't have a distributor. And so they're making all these wines, but they can't get them to the US. They can't do this, they can't do that. And I'm like, well, people in the US can't get their wines across the US. So I'm just like, how do you, get people to taste your wines if you can't get them out into the world?
yeah.
It's very
it's not
sad.
the wineries that are creating the issue. That's definitely for sure.
I just think somebody is going to come up with an innovative idea like Uber, like being able to have people drive around that's safe and people can make money and you can get rides and you don't have to worry. I mean, Uber's transformed, how people drive around. And I
Well, in
think,
Maryland, you've got to have a license in every county to do it. So
yeah, but I mean,
until that changes.
right. And so in wine, it'll be the same thing. Somebody who knows the challenges of distribution, brokerage, licensing, getting licensed in each city, but making it worth it. It's hard to have a wine club member in Texas. You only have one wine club member, and you almost have to tell them, well, you can't be a member because the amount of money that I'm
Right.
going to you, I can't pay for that license every year.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And I can't
Mhm.
get enough places in Texas to where I could ship the wine to make it economically sound. And so many different stories, and none of it makes sense. But somebody's going to do something about it. Hopefully,
I
hopefully.
hope that they realize that it's worth more to drink good wine than it is to get that extra 50 cents to $2 off the bottle that they feel like they have to have.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. Long run for sure.
Mhm. I know.
Well,
Well,
thank you. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Christina.
no, I was just gonna say the same thing. Leslie, I opened, I'll let you close out, Ray. It's been awesome. Thank you so much. And we're gonna
Yeah,
be in touch because
right.
Yes, we will definitely. We have our eyes on some other stuff, so
Mhm.
definitely we will be in touch. And thank you for your time. This means so much to us.
Yes.
And we try to share it with our other members who can't be here, but this definitely means a lot to us. So thank you for giving your time during the middle of the day. We really appreciate
Yes.
it.
Well, I look forward to it. And like I said, there's a lot of people who didn't have time but stopped what they were doing and did what they could to help me out. So I got here with circumstances like this. I'm in this position because of circumstances like this. So I'm happy to help any way I can. So
We are happy you're here, that's for sure. Cheers to that.
cheers.
Always good to see you,
Thank
Ray.
you.
All right, you guys.
Thank you,
Care.
ladies. Thank you
Bye.
so much,
Thank
Ray. We'll be
you.
in
Bye,
touch.
everybody.
Have a good night, guys. Be safe.
All right.